see a lot, and I wanted to focus on those. So, again, if you hear noise in the background, clove cinnamon stick tea with ginger slices. Now, I haven't tried that. I haven't tried it, but it sounds good. Yeah, so I'm gonna be hopping into this topic right now. All right, y'all. So the first one that I want to lift up when it comes to the seven worries that wives carry. Let me ask y'all this: can y'all hear any noise in the background? Like, can y'all hear women talking, women laughing, anything like that? I want to make sure that my audio is good. Are y'all good with that? Can y'all hear me fine? Blamley, can you hear me fine? IG, can y'all hear me fine? I want to make sure that I'm good in terms of the audio. Like I said, there's women who are around talking and doing their exercises and stuff like that. So I want to make sure y'all, it's not a whole bunch of noise in the background. All right. You saying no? You can't hear me, or you can't hear the noise in the background on IG. All right. So the first thing, y'all. The first thing. Okay, the audio is good. All right, cool. The first one that I want to lift up, in terms of a worry that wives carry, is something that is not really spoken about a lot. But I know it's something that women definitely walk around with, and sometimes don't necessarily verbalize. And that is, and I'm gonna frame these in the form of questions, but it comes about in the form of, am I a good wife? Am I a good wife? And this is one of the worries that their wives carry. And when we speak about this whole piece around am I a good wife, what that consists of is really us looking at and taking into consideration the weight of unspoken expectations. I know a number of wives like silently battle the question of whether or not they're measuring up to societal, familial, or even like self-imposed standards. Self-imposed standards, ideals on what it means to be a good wife. And so what ends up happening is that like there's a lot of women who go through a process, go down a rabbit hole of overthinking every single action, every single decision within the context of marriage. And so you're wondering whether or not I'm a good wife. This is a worry. Like this is a legitimate worry. I don't know if dudes, I've never asked myself that question. And I don't know if my wife has asked herself that question either, but what I do know is that some women have. And a number of women have based off of the work that my wife and I do, like wondering whether or not you measure up. And whether or not you're doing all of the things, balancing the roles along with self-worth. And so, sometimes these things can become so deeply intertwined with who you are as a woman, who you are as a wife, that it's all like a big cluster. And so you sometimes evaluate your wifely standard or your wifely role based off of the fact of whether or not you're performing in certain roles. And so again, this is something that women worry about. This is something that wives worry about. And so it's a real thing. It's a real thing. And I think that we as men have to, pay attention to it, honor it, recognize it, and make room for it. Number one, I appreciate as a husband the fact that this is even a consideration. I appreciate that. I appreciate that you want to be a better wife, that you want to be a good wife. And a number of husbands, a number of husbands actually, appreciate that as well too. And so, again, the fact that you're aspiring to be better is a good thing. But one thing that I do want to say is that it's more to you than just being a wife. And so we're going to get into that. But again, this is one of the questions that come up. And what it leads to sometimes is like seeking validation, external validation from your spouse. Or you might even be seeking it from others. Sometimes y'all might even be looking towards your mom, your father, your friends, your other people who are married, versus finding that confidence within yourself to know that you're a good wife. And so, this is something again that wives worry about. And I do think that ladies, if you find yourself being concerned or overly concerned about this, just know that as long as you're doing what needs to be done, as long as you're honoring the voice within you, the voice of God, then you're doing what needs to be done. And so focus on that. Focus on that. That takes me to the second point, y'all. Blamley, if y'all got anything that y'all want to add on to anything that I'm saying, do me a favor, raise your hand, and I'll bring you forward so you can add some additional, context based off of the things that I'm lifting up. And I see the question. I for both men and women, so anybody can hop on here. In terms of this whole this live stream tonight, this Relationship Thursday. So, all right. The second thing is sometimes wives, are worrying about is this question right here: Is God pleased with me? Is God pleased with me? That's a legitimate worry, y'all. And I know that it's a big deal because faith and personal conduct are so intertwined in many respects. How you govern yourself, how you show up, how you behave, how you move as a wife, would God approve? And so if you find yourself as a wife, or if you see yourself as somebody who's like really rooted in your faith, oftentimes there's like a desire to live your life in a way that honors your spiritual beliefs, which is a good thing. It's a good thing. But what happens is that you can sometimes teeter on the line of asking questions, overanalyzing, evaluating everything, your daily actions, your choices, your struggles, and wondering whether or not they're in alignment with divine will. That can be stressful, y'all. That can be stressful. And so just, again, exploring that particular question, is God pleased with me as a wife? Is something that women contend with. And even if you encounter like certain challenges within your life, how do you navigate those challenges? Do you deal with them with grace? Or do you throw your religion or spirituality in the trash can and just go ham with them? Like, how do you deal with challenges? And so again, is God pleased with me, as a wife? And sometimes women carry like this burden of spiritual perfection, which can be heavy. And what ends up happening is that in some instances, I've seen that women spiritualize everything. And as a result, sometimes like, you're not really grounded or rooted in the relationship. And that's an issue. That could be an issue for your husband. But the way it's almost as if like when you show up that way in a relationship, there's a disconnect. Like there's a wall. There's a wall between you and I. And that wall, unfortunately, it looks like God, but it's not really God. What it is religion. It's religion. Because if God is in between us, if God is in the relationship, if God is in the marriage, then that's a connecting bridge. But unfortunately, what happens is that far too often people are using religion, not as a bridge, but as a barrier. And so you end up finding yourself in a situation in which, again, you're over spiritualizing everything. And then there's tension, in your marriage. And so, again, is God pleased with me? Is a question that, women are asking. And it's a worry that their wives have. It's a worry that wives have. For those of y'all who are on Zoom, the Blamily, whatever questions that I asked, I'm streaming live on YouTube and I'm streaming live on IG as well too. So they may possibly hear it, but and I'm not gonna say y'all's names. But go ahead, bro. You can go ahead. You can ask your question. Or let me give you the ability to unmute. All right, you can go
Yeah.
ahead.
What's up, how you say?
Uh-huh.
Hey, so what's an example of, I often hear people use that term of religion versus spirituality. So what's like a one-to-one example to what that looks like? You know what I'm saying? Like when people say that, they don't clarify on what that looks like in real life.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if y'all heard that, IG, but the question was, what's an example of religion versus spirituality? And so, what I would talk about religion, um,
I
you know,
use that real quick before you answer.
go
So,
ahead.
and in reference to how you're using it in a relationship, specifically.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. So within the context, let me answer the general question first. So the difference between the two, religion versus spirituality, is that spirituality, of course, is more broad. It can encompass a number of different religions. And typically what that speaks to more so is the relationship with God. Religion speaks about the relationship with God as well too, but the focus a lot of times is based off of you following a particular edict, a code of conduct, certain rituals to get to God. And so sometimes what we see within the context of a relationship is that somebody may feel that if they're doing daily devotional, then what ends up happening is that right there can strengthen a relationship. It can, but if the focus is revolving around let's do this daily devotional, but not around the connection as it pertains to the daily devotional in terms of the conversations, in terms of your openness to insight, whether or not you're willing to receive feedback, how you're pouring into the person, and again, how you're receiving what the person is giving you, then it just becomes a practice. And so people can sometimes get so focused on the praying, the doing the daily devotional, the going to church, and all of those things are good things, but that's the practice, that's the ritual of the religion. The spirituality piece comes into play when there's a certain level of openness, and there's a subtle dance that takes place, where the emphasis is more so about relationship. It's more so about connection. It's more so about God. And so it's not about necessarily those things, but it's about the relationship takes precedence. The relationship with God takes precedence versus the rituals that you're actually engaged in. So that's how I would differentiate the two. And so I've seen folks that are focused on praying every day, focused on reading the Bible 24 hours out of a day, focused on doing daily devotions, which is good. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that if you're so preoccupied with that you're missing your partner in terms of the relationship, then you're missing the point of what it is that you're reading, praying about, and doing. You're just missing the point. And so the relationship is what matters most. And these things can be a vehicle to strengthen the relationship, or they can be a deterrent and a barrier blocking the relationship too. So just be mindful about the religion piece when it comes to your relationship. So hopefully that right there helps, bro. That was a great question though. And so this whole piece around is God pleased with me. This whole burden of spiritual perfection is something that has to be contended with, and a lot of times people find themselves locked into a position where like I'm so focused on doing the things that I'm not necessarily being present while the things are being done. And this is a word that wives have. Is God pleased with me? The third thing that I want to lift up as a worry that women have or their wives have is where's my security or stability? Where's my security or stability? And when we speak about security and stability, a lot of times, women are lifted up. Where's my mental and emotional security and stability? Now, somebody may say like that rests with you. So you're responsible ultimately for providing that to yourself. The answer is yes, you are. As a partner in a relationship, you play a part in contributing to what your spouse experiences. And so I see we got Paris in the house. What's up, Paris? You play a part in contributing to what your spouse experiences. And so you don't want to create an environment where there is mental and emotional instability, where there is mental and emotional insecurity. That shouldn't be your goal. That shouldn't be your aim. And so wives oftentimes carry a burden around ensuring their family's overall stability, mental, emotional, financial stability. And so this particular worry, it comes in the a lot of times it's often manifested in the form of like income. Going on vacations, buying homes, cars, whatever it may be. And so there may be some level of uncertainty in that area. Future planning, legacy, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the obvious. And so you should be striving toward achieving stability in those areas. But the piece that we sometimes discount and really just discredit is the emotional support and stability, the mental emotional support and stability that's needed in a relationship as well. And so women worry about that piece. Like if I can't trust you, there is no stability. There is no security. If 1 minute you want to be bunned up and booed up with me, but then the next minute you wilding out, flipping out, calling me bitches and, slamming doors and punching holes in the wall, then it's not safe. And so I worry about my safety. I worry about my security. I worry about the stability of our household. And so this is a worry. And so, women in many respects understand the unpredictable nature of life. I mean, stuff be happening, life be happening, life be lifing. But what can be controlled? What can be controlled in your home? And how can you contribute to some level of stability and some level of security inside of it? You got certain external factors like health issues, you got job loss, you got, just any unexpected life changes that may pop up that trigger a sense of worry. These things are real. But the important piece is, what can you do to stabilize yourself in the midst of it all? How can you stabilize yourself in the midst of it all? How can you individually, and then if you're in a relationship as a husband, how can you partner, or how can you show up in a way in which you're providing a source of anchoring, stabilizing, securing, or security in a relationship? How can you do that? And so this is this is the third thing that I'm lifting up that wives are worrying about: that emotional, mental, financial security and stability. Can they trust you? If you're running out here putting your dick in any and everything, like, there is no stability, there is no security. I worry about that. Your wife is worried about that. And so you got a responsibility to do your part. Lakita Larson said, I've been trying to find a job to help pay the bills. That's what's up. Like, again, you have a responsibility. Your partner has a responsibility. And again, if ultimately security and stability is what we're looking for, then are you doing your part? But it's a real life worry. Another worry that wives have, and again, Blam, if y'all want to add on to anything that I'm lifting up, if you want to add some perspective, some additional context, please do. Please do. Raise your hand if you got a question that you want to ask. I'm here for it. Let me take a sip of this hibiscus tea. For those who weren't on here first, I'm here at the Becoming Her retreat. My wife is doing her Becoming Her retreat. The Her stands for Healed, Elevated, and Rooted. And so it's a group of women who are out here right now. And one of the sisters made this banging hibiscus tea. It tastes really good, y'all. And yeah, so let me get to the next one. The fourth one, y'all, is, will I have to do life alone? Will I have to do life alone? I don't want y'all to really see, I don't want you to discredit or dismiss like these worries that I'm lifting up. I'm expressing them based off of what I've been exposed to in the work that I do with women. And for the fellas who are watching, really take these into consideration. Sometimes when we hear what I'm lifting up come from our wives, we feel like they're nagging, we feel like they're complaining, we feel like they're crying, we feel like, it's just something else. Like, it's really not that serious. But it's really that serious, bro. It really is. Will I have to do life alone? This particular worry right here is a profound one, because a lot of times what it centers around is the fact that the possibility and the impending reality of abandonment or isolation. Why do I say impending reality? Why do I say possibility? Because there's a possibility that in your relationship there may be some level of abandonment, whether that be through you making a decision, fellas, to stonewall your spouse, you making a decision to step out and be with somebody else, you making a decision to be preoccupied with your work and not pay attention to your wife. And so again, you might be focused on that piece, but they feel like, you're not thinking about me, you're not thinking about the children, so I'm doing life alone. Why do I use the word impending? Because at some point, we all gonna check out, and that's a real thing. Not that it has to come along with abandonment or isolation, but you know, depending upon how things occur, that could be a way in which you experience whatever that loss might be. So it could be through the possibility of divorce. Where you're dealing with abandonment or isolation. It could be, let's just say y'all grow apart. Some couples do grow apart. As you get older, you change. You have different needs, different interests, different likes, different desires, and y'all grow apart. And so, when that happens, how you doing life? Are y'all still doing it as a couple, or do you feel like you're doing life alone? There's a worry about that. I've seen women dim their light to remain in a relationship, just to remain connected in a relationship with somebody who chooses to stay stuck. Some of y'all are doing that now. Some of y'all are not living out the fullest of your potential because you would rather say you got a husband. You would rather say that you got a man versus recognizing that it's more to you than just that relationship. And you deserve more within the context of the relationship. And so again, will I have to do life alone is a worry that women have. This whole piece around single-handed responsibility, is sometimes wives feel like they're shouldering too many responsibilities, that they're leading and not being led or not being partnered with. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about. This is a real thing, and wives worry about this. They didn't choose to get married to not have a partner, but they worry that you're not putting forth the effort and you're not showing up as you promised that you would. And so, fellas, we got to pay attention to that. There's some small ways in which we can do better. And I'm just challenging all of the men to find what those ways are. Communicate with your wife and do better. Do better, bro. The next one, y'all, is do I have to be strong all of the time? Do I have to be strong all of the time? Some of y'all, know about that whole superwoman cape, that strong one archetype. A lot of wives, they feel like this unspoken pressure, and sometimes it's from their family, but also sometimes it's from themselves. But that pressure is real, and so you feel the pressure to be the rock for everybody, and you worry about that. It's not sustainable. It's not. It's not sustainable. And so, with it not being sustainable, what happens? You end up breaking. You end up breaking down. And so wives are wondering and worrying about the fact that, like, do I got to be the strong one all of the time? In doing that, the crippling aspect of it in terms of being a strong one is that you suppress your vulnerability for stability. You suppress your vulnerability for stability. Because there's a fear that if you let your guard down, or you admit to being tired, or you admit to being disappointed or overwhelmed, it might somehow shake the foundation and destabilize the household. Or you might even possibly disappoint the people that are relying on you and your strength. And so wives worry about that. That's a whole lot of weight to carry. It's a lot of weight to carry. And y'all shouldn't have to do that. When you said I do, you wouldn't say I'm going to do by myself. And again, fellas, we got to step up. And then ladies, on the flip side, like sometimes y'all got to put some things down. You got to put some things down. So you're worrying about, do I have to be strong all of the time? There's an emotional exhaustion that comes with all of that. Just holding on to all of the pieces. There's a constant emotional labor. Constant. Your woman is expected to manage everything. Everybody's feelings, resolve conflicts, maintain harmony, maintain peace without acknowledging and paying attention to her own emotional capacity. That's exhausting. So wives worry, do I have to be strong all of the time? Do I got to carry this weight for the rest of my life? Do I have to? I mean, that's heavy, y'all. That's heavy. Another worry that wives have is, am I setting a good example for my children? Bruh, what type of values am I modeling? Wives know that their children are watching them, if you have children. Or even if you don't have children, but you're interfacing with younger girls. You're interfacing with younger women. They're watching you, and you know that. And so sometimes this worry like centers around the fact that the way I'm showing up is setting an example, and in many respects is one that I don't want to be replicated. And so are you breaking generational curses based off of the way that you're moving as a wife? Or are you standing on generational strengths? Now, it can be a combination of both. But you got to be real and ask yourself the question, like, am I setting a good example for my children? This is what wives are asking. This is what wives are asking, and as a result, it places an additional burden, an additional stress on them, grappling with like the imperfection of motherhood. Despite the best intentions, you're gonna do some things that have a negative impact on your child. You're human. You're gonna do some things that they look side-eyed at. You're human. But even with that being said, even though you know that intellectually, you still worry about that. And you still worry about that because you question whether or not you're falling short as the ideal mom. But we all gonna make mistakes. And sis, you're gonna make mistakes too. And so you got to give yourself some grace. But again, am I setting a good example for my children is a worry that their wives have. And lastly, what I'm going to lift up is am I honoring my voice and my vision on my life's journey? Am I honoring my voice and my vision on my life's journey? This is you can get so wrapped up in being a wife and in being a mom that you can lose yourself in those two roles. They're honorable, and I commend all of the women who are watching this that really value and prioritize those pieces. But one thing that can't be lost in that is you listening to the sound of the genuine. You got to listen to that voice inside of you. You do. And so many women, so many wives, they lose themselves in partnership. It's common for wives to pour, to give so much into their marriage and into their family that they sideline their goals, their dreams, their aspirations, their desires, their personal identity. You lose yourself. You lose yourself. And so the question becomes like, am I really connected to who I am as a person? It's a hard thing when you're trying to balance the idea of we with me. It is. You're challenged around that. And so, there has to be a certain level of intentionality to arrive at a place of equilibrium between your shared life, between what y'all got going on, and your own personal growth and development. All of it contributes to who you are as a person, but wives are worrying like, am I losing myself in the midst of this? Where's my voice? Where am I? Where am I? And so what you got to do is, in these instances, really is to challenge yourself to reclaim your own personal purpose. Your personal purpose. Like, get back in touch with that. That's why and again, those of y'all on my IG who just hopped on, I'm here at this, and my wife's Becoming Her retreat, the most healed, elevated, and rooted version of yourself. That's what the women here are doing. They're, and I'm here to support in any way that I can, but they're leaning into a process to do just that. Reclaim your personal purpose. Become healed, become elevated, become rooted, to understand self. And so it's not just for the women who are here, it's for all of y'all who are watching this, whether it's right now or whether it's on replay. You got a job to do. And I want you to honor your voice. I want you to honor your vision and your life's journey. But there's many a wives who are worrying that that thing is getting smothered. It's been buried by you. Or it's been buried by your spouse. Or it's been buried by your children. And I just want to say it's not too late. It's not too late. So yeah, so those are the 7 worries that wives carry. I know that this is not an exhaustive list by any means. Let me just go back over them really quickly. The first one was Am I a good wife? Number two, is God pleased with me? Number three, where's my security slash stability? Number four, will I have to do life alone? Number five, do I have to be strong all of the time? Number six, am I setting a good example for my children? And number seven, am I honoring my voice and my vision on my life's journey? All right, good peoples, Blamley. If y'all got any questions, raise your hand. If y'all got any comments, you can raise your hand too. Um, Very bad example. You're talking about generational strengths or generational curses. You can raise your hand if you got any questions. And yeah, I would love to connect in with y'all. IG, I'm gonna say deuces. I'm gonna hang on for just a couple of more minutes with the Blamley, and talk to them, answer any questions that they might have. But thank y'all for tuning in. IG, I'm out. YouTube, I'm about to log off as well too. Actually, let me look at YouTube real quick to see whether or not y'all got any comments or questions. Let me take a look. No, I don't see any questions. All right, cool. All right,